So while this this presents a problem, it's also an opportunity to create domestic jobs. Now, the data we have on job creation in decentralized renewables is really scarce. There are some global reports from the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, said 4.5 million potential jobs in DRE. There's a Power for All study that said that DRE in some specific countries, such as Kenya, already creates as many jobs as actually the on-grid sector, because they're decentralized jobs in local communities. But the granular data of where those jobs are, where the opportunities lie, are not there yet. At the same time, there's a lack of skills development initiatives until now that can empower domestic domestic practitioners to take on these jobs. Hence why we have two programs in this space. One is with the Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung on basically finding out where the job opportunities lie, making a study on the job impact of DRE with a start in Western Africa, and then doing policy dialogues and policy campaigns based on that. So of course it's always a strong political argument if you can tell policymakers that you're creating jobs with renewables. So that's one. The other one is with our partners at the International Copper Association, represented here by Mr. Kokoda, the executive director. It's on skills development, so directly training domestic and practitioners to operate, install, and design mini-grid systems, for example. So that's the baseline of this session. We have a nice, quite diverse panel today with both, let's say, more market, let's say, players such as associations and foundation. We have another foundation, but also sort of membership-based with Rest for Africa, as well as government and private sector. So with that, and as a starting point, I'd like to give the word to Steve to talk a bit more about the CORE initiative and the background for that. By the way, Steve is also the chair of CORE, so we have a steering committee with SEforALL, UNIDO, ICA, ARE, and UNEP for the initiative. So Steve, over to you for the opening remarks, and then we go into the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jens, and it's a pleasure to partner with ARE in this important work. So yeah, just very quickly, because I gave the kind of the background this morning of what the International Copper Association, or ICA, is doing in this space. So we run programs on behalf of our members. It's an extractive industry, so our stakeholders don't always have the most positive view of what we do. So to help counter those negative perceptions, we develop and implement programs to make an impact on the SDGs. And we're particularly strong, I would say, in SDG 7. Right. Yeah, so CORE, Cornerstone of Rural Electrification, and we'll start with a video to explain. I think if I hit one more.
Today, nearly 870 million people lack access to electricity, while 1.5 billion people have unreliable access. To address this issue, the International Copper Association and the Alliance for Rural Electrification are launching the Cornerstone of Rural Electrification Initiative, or CORE, in partnership with SEforALL, UNEP, IRENA, and UNIDO. By supporting the development of decentralized renewable energy systems, DRE, in rural and peri-urban areas, CORE operates at the nexus of energy access and energy efficiency to make DRE systems more efficient and productive. CORE offers training and technical assistance to practitioners, communities, and governments to support existing and planned DRE projects. CORE empowers women and girls who are disproportionately impacted by energy access issues to become self-reliant and kickstart local enterprises in alignment with UN SDGs 7, 5, and 1. To learn more about CORE or to join our initiative, please visit www.core-initiative.org.
Okay, and then just a couple of slides to underscore some of these points. So yeah, I mean, as the video said in simplest terms, what CORE is about is ensuring that the pillars of safety, efficiency, and reliability are embedded within DRE systems. You know, we've heard this theme over and over again, and it's good to have a panel dedicated to it, about the need for skilled workforces in countries. Right. I think the speaker from the German government spoke very well about that yesterday. Right. So we're empowering local communities to install and maintain these systems. So we're not flying someone in from Western Europe if things break down. I think the speaker yesterday had said how there might be multiple systems in place because one breaks down and then just sending a new one in. I think it would be much more effective if we could have people on the ground able to repair them. And at the end of the day, we're trying to ensure that it's not access for the sake of access. We want to ensure we're meeting the goals of SDG 7 and ensuring that everyone in the world has access to, to clean and affordable energy, but it has to be sustainable. And that's, I think the main idea behind CORE, that we want these systems to last. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, training, as Jens has said, is central to this, and I think importantly, it's the training of trainers, right? So providing university-level training and certifications so that people in local communities can then take that knowledge and train other people, and there's this multiplier effect that we're starting to quantify. And we're also, supporting governments to ensure that they're maximizing their focus on these pillars of safety, efficiency, and reliability when they specify these systems. Very simplified timeline of how a CORE project works. Initially we work with the local stakeholders to identify the scope and their needs for support. Next we agree on who will cover the costs, and at present CORE covers the costs for the training and the partners are only covering the logistical fees and other hard costs. So my first call to action, and I'll come to this at the end, when it says that, CORE is paying for this, that's the International Copper Association, and there must be other organizations interested in doing, sustainable development work in Africa that can support this work further, right? Okay. In the third month, roughly, we're deciding who will conduct the actual training and where it would be, and then we move into the training and then the certifications, and then longer term, we're working with all of the stakeholders involved to monitor the impact, and I'll come to that. Okay. So, I mean, the easiest thing to measure is, the number of people that are trained. Okay, easy enough. It's that multiplier effect, though, that we're interested in, because that potentially could, be orders of magnitude above the people that are trained. We also now need to figure out how many of these trainings and subsequent trainings are new jobs, right? And we need to do further segmentation on things like gender. I was at a conference last year and one of the speakers was Princess Abzey Jigma from Burkina Faso, and she said there is no energy justice unless there is true gender equality, right? Because we know, when it's said in the video, lack of sustainable energy vastly disproportionately negative towards women and girls in the region. So we need to understand, we're committed to make an impact there, and we need to understand if we're actually doing that. And then the last slide is just showing, the impact. It's a relatively new program. We launched it at COP26 in Glasgow, so about 16 months ago. And this slide is actually, I'm pleased to say, is a little bit out of date. It's not 987 trainings. It's over 1,100 trainings so far. That number of trainers trained 38. That's a number that I'd like to see go up. But this was all done in 11 separate training certifications, and then in 10 countries so far. Yep. So with that, we're looking to collaborate. I'm proud of the work that we've done already, but it's really just the proverbial tip of the iceberg, and there's more that we can be doing together. And again, last time I'll say it, at least here, I'll say it constantly the next couple of days. We're looking for other people to fund the work and not just us. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. With that, we'll move into the panel discussion. So I have the pleasure of welcoming on the stage 4 panelists. First of all, Stephanie Brinkel, Director of Political Dialogue at the Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung Political Dialogue for West Africa. Welcome. Thank you. Second panelist, Laura Lombardo, Microgrid Program Specialist at SEforALL Foundation. Welcome, Laura. We also have a young entrepreneur on the panel, which is great to see, Ms. Chiamela Anusike from Solaris, CEO at Solaris Green Tech Hub. Welcome, Chiamela. And then last but not least, representing the government point of view, happy to also welcome Mr. Sef Akbere Mahu, Deputy Director at the Ministry of Energy of Ghana. Welcome, Sef. Thank you. So we'll have a round of quick intro questions. So we can start with Stephanie. So overall question, first of all, would be, could you perhaps introduce a bit the work CAS is doing in this space to support job creation and skills development? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jens. Thank you very much for having us, Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung, today here. The Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung or Konrad-Adenauer Foundation is actually a political foundation based with its headquarters in Berlin. And we exist since 60 years now, and we are committed to achieving and maintaining peace, freedom, and justice through political and civic education worldwide. We have more than 110 offices in more than 80 countries, and 20 of our programs are based in sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm the director of one of these programs that is based in Abidjan, working on political dialogue in West Africa. We have one regional program that is called Energy Security and Climate Change that is based in Nairobi. And there we are aiming at improving the political and social framework for energy security, climate change mitigation, and climate change adaptation. So in this context, we also partner with ARI on the study that Jens just mentioned. But beyond this regional program, we have country offices, as I just mentioned, and all of these country offices have one objective, that is skills development and job creation. And as I said, we are a political foundation, so we understand us as a bridge builder between political decision makers and civil society. Thank you very much. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Laura, I would like to ask you the same question. So SEforALL, I think by many that know the industry, is seen as a front runner on capacity building. So could you perhaps share with us a few words on the initiatives?
Thank you, Jens, and thank you also for the introduction. Yes, just briefly on SEforALL Foundation. So we are a private sector and member-driven organization, which means that for us capacity building means to bring together the perspectives and expertise of the private sector and our members in order to bridge the skills gap that we identify in the different regions and areas where we work in Africa. So capacity building, as I said, is one of the core components of our work, and we do capacity building in different ways and through different initiatives. I specifically work on a capacity building program, a skills development program, focusing on technical and vocational capacity building. And the aim of this program is to target young professionals, young entrepreneurs and students who are eager to and work already in the renewable energy sector with a specific focus on decentralized renewable energy and solar mini grids. So why solar mini grids? This is because the demand is always high. We work with a lot of countries and a lot of communities where access to energy in rural areas is still a challenge, and mini grids remain a very viable solution for them. So we are in high demand for this kind of training. And this initiative has been started in 2018, so it's been a few, quite a few years now, and we implemented 27th edition of our training. We have trained over 1,700 people, and there is a good result in terms of both networking opportunities with 90% of students and alumni being able to connect with sector players, and over 45% of them were able to actually get new jobs. So this is a good number that let us understand the importance and impact also these kind of programs, especially when they are aimed at young entrepreneurs. And just to conclude on top of that, during our training we soon realized that there was the opportunity for many of our students to develop new ideas, and also the capacity and ability to put that idea into place. And it was in that context that we decided to open another program in 2020, which is the Young Talent of the Year Award, which is a program that specifically supports youth entrepreneurship, and it does so through a monetary award, of course, but also through mentoring support, so again, skills development, as well as the opportunity to be part of bigger fora, events, so giving visibility and promotion to the programs and the young innovators that we support. And I'm quite happy to just conclude by saying that our colleague Shemela Anosike is one of the winners of the last year edition of the award. So I will pass the word.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura. We will move on to Chiamela, who's a perfect example of this because she has been supported by Rest for Africa through the Young Talent Award. So same question to you, Chiamela. Could you perhaps say a few words about the work you do?
Okay, thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for having me on this panel. Okay, so my name is Chiamela, as rightly introduced, and I'm the founder of Solaris Green Tech Hub. So at Solaris is a renewable energy startup, but our focus mainly is for those in rural and peri-urban communities in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. So we focus on the eastern part of Nigeria. So over the years, we discovered that of course, there are issues of lack of access to electricity. But according to the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria, they estimated that over 90 million Nigerians do not have access to electricity. And there have been some products in the market. There have been some interventions trying to solve this issue of access to energy. But we discovered that for some set of people, especially for those at the bottom of the pyramid who typically live below $1 daily, they are unable to access some of these available energy solutions in the market. So they are entirely disconnected from the national grid, and they are disconnected from any other source of electricity. So what we did was to do a search on what their energy needs could be. So we found out that their energy needs are quite basic. They need electricity to power their mobile devices and light up their homes. So that was what led us to start doing what we're doing at Solaris. So what we do is to set up solar booths, which we deploy to these communities that are entirely disconnected from the national grid. So we set up this booth, and we work with young persons as booth agent. So these community members can access electricity at a very decent and low price. So they come to the booth to access energy. They come to rent our mobile power. They come to charge their mobile devices, and at the end of the day, we fulfill their basic energy needs. So this is a summary of what we do at Solaris Green Tech Hub. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chiamela. Moving on to SEF, it's perhaps quite a different perspective. So in Ghana, on the government side, could you perhaps also introduce a bit on your work specifically on job creation in the ministry?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to give our audience some perspective of what we do at the Ministry of Energy. The Ministry of Energy, as we know for all political organizations, is there to develop policies and also monitor the implementation of the policies within the industry. The Ministry of Energy has 3 main technical wings, and renewable energy is one of them, which I manage currently. The work we do there basically is to create the market, create the enabling environment to ensure that renewable energy, flourishes in Ghana. The policy objective of my department is to be able to achieve about 10% renewable energy capacity installation by 2030, which translates into nominal figures of about 1,350 megawatts of IRE installed capacity. We are doing this using a number of strategies. One of them is to use utility scale strategy, where we are developing large-scale plants using the private sector and state-owned entities to connect into the grid. And we are also using distributed IRE generation as a strategy to also increase the capacity. I'll be talking about all of this in details. We also doing off-grid as a strategy to address the last mile electrification, particularly for island communities that we cannot connect to the national grid. We're using mini grids to address that. And in all this, we have created a market for the industry, which is giving employment to people. And I'll be talking about the numbers in the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that concise intro. So you mentioned policies, and I think we can turn perhaps back to Stephanie here, who's the main expert on the topic. So one thing that has also come forward in some of the other debates is how do we reach the people that are not converted? I think that's also a key focus of our joint program, right? How do we reach and convince the Ministry of Employment, for example, or policymakers that think, well, we should prioritize fossil fuels, the people that are not yet convinced? So maybe, yeah, Stephanie, you can have a start on that.
Thank you very much for that question. I think we have to have very sound analysis. So the basic for everything is scientifically sound research and then advocacy. And research on win-win situations to give people an economic reason to decide for renewable energy. So I think it starts with identifying win-win situations and then communicating them properly. So from a political point of view, I think, and strategically, it is very important for decision makers to convince their voters. Yeah, and that is where you need arguments why renewable energy and decentralized renewable energy can be a benefit to the population. And I think, I think that is what we can also show in our study is that there is a massive potential. And then to bring this knowledge to decision makers is something CAS is working on a lot, but then also helping in dialogue platforms, transferring that knowledge to the people in order to bring more people on board in order to believe in the possibility of decentralized renewable energy opportunities. So in my my belief, it is a personal responsibility, but it is also a joint commitment of the political foundations, of policymakers, and of the private sector and civil society organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other takers on that question? Laura, you were looking at the microphone, so do you want to answer as well?
I'm ready. No, I think my answer is not, it's quite alike to yours, Stephanie. Obviously, it is a matter of showing, from my perspective, the one maybe of the program also I follow is about showing the results and the real impact that a program can have. And of course, when you enter into a community, when you support youth, there is a spillover effect of what you do. So showing that impact and that effect in the right tables and the conferences, advocating for that, and really giving an opportunity to people to demonstrate how decentralized renewable energy can be an important solution with many socio-economic benefits for the communities is the way to go. And we do that with our program, and we do that as a foundation more broadly with other programs as well. So yeah, this is my take on the on the question.
Thank you so much, Laura. I think maybe I'd also turn to Sef on this question. I mean, one thing is convincing on the job impact, but also in general for a ministry working, or inside a ministry working on renewable energy, you must face this challenge on a daily basis, right, to convince people of the value add of renewables. So do you perhaps also have a take on the...
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the benefits of doing renewable energy is out there for everyone to see. You don't need to tell much story about it before you get decision makers taking action on that. If you look at Ghana, for example, in the year 2020, we created about 2,170 jobs in the renewable energy industry alone. And about 75% of that was in the biomass space, notably in the area of charcoal production. It employs a lot of people. And then when you come to the electricity side, about 25% of that went into that space, particularly in the area of, installation of solar systems, design works, manufacturing, and also advocacy. So clearly, the opportunities in the renewable energy space, when it comes to job creation, are there for all of us to see. I recall very well when we were doing our energy transition framework last year, we engaged with the World Bank to do an impact assessment of the framework. And the numbers they put out there were quite amazing. The renewable energy sector will be creating about 1.4 million jobs as we transition towards our net zero by 2070, and that is significant. So decision makers need these figures to be able to take concrete actions, because obviously you're going to create opportunities, along the entire value chain, in manufacturing, in service, and so on and so forth. So I believe strongly that the renewable energy sector in Ghana is going to make a huge impact on jobs, and for that matter, the other ministries are working closely with us. The employment ministry is working with us, trade, etc. They are all working with us to ensure that the industry is promoted at a scale that will bring multiple benefits to everybody.
Thank you so much for that answer. Just a quick follow-up question on that. You mentioned the number of envisaged jobs. Ghana alone or multiple countries? That's Ghana alone, that number.
In fact, this is happening in Ghana alone. You are talking of creating 83 gigawatts of installed capacity for electricity alone. And you are transitioning the economy into an electricity-driven economy. So you expect jobs to happen in so many areas of the industry. In the area of e-mobility, you expect jobs to happen in that space. In the area of power generation, you expect a lot to be happening in those areas. So clearly you can see that there is so much opportunities to create thousands of jobs in the clean energy space. And with this, I will not limit it only to renewables. We are looking at the energy transition in general, all the things that will be happening as you transition towards a net zero. And that is where the employment is going to be coming from. And this is not by 2030, this is by 2070, where the population of Ghana will be in the region of about 80 million people. So clearly, you can see that that's quite significant. Almost about 1% of the population getting employment in the clean energy space.
Very interesting numbers. Would be very curious to see the report from the World Bank on that afterwards. Thank you.
Maybe before you move on, I would want to say that we are working with the Sustainable SEforALL, the Sustainable Energy for Raw Secretariat, to develop the plan, and we believe some of these figures are going to be looked at, and when the report is out, we'll all be very clear in our minds the exact number of jobs that we are likely to be creating within the clean energy space in Ghana.
Great, that's really encouraging news. And as Steve said, SEforALL is also one of the founding partners of CORE, so happy to see that angle as well. So turning a bit more to the how we empower people for these jobs, perhaps I can turn back to Chiamela, and maybe you can shed a light a bit on how you work on a daily basis with job creation, and especially the challenges.
Okay, so for my organization, I think one of the key things we do is to create jobs for young person. In fact, our business model is designed in such a way that it specifically speaks to this. Now, we run a model, a business model such that we deploy this boot, our solar boot, to these communities, and we get on board young persons who work as boot agent. Now, with the rate of unemployment in Nigeria, of course, we get as many young persons as possible who get interest to work with us. So we bring them on board, and of course, we find out that, of course, we need people with the technical expertise, with the skill to be able to handle some of those things. But again, we take that into consideration, and we design our power boxes in such a way that it is easy to set up. So someone with little or zero technical knowledge can easily set it up. So we put all of that into consideration. So we get these young persons on board, and they become boot agents. And aside from retailing energy to these communities, these local community members who are disconnected from the national grid, they could also set up a micro business for themselves. So they could bring in agency banking, they could bring in sale of core cards and other add-ons to the boot to form a micro business for themselves. So our model is designed in such a way that it creates jobs for as many young persons as possible. So currently at the moment, we have about 3 of our boots that are deployed. We have 5 on the pipeline that has also been deployed. So that's 3 young persons out there who's working as boot agent, 5 more young persons who's going to work as boot agent. So if we get to deploy up to 100 of our boots, we employ up to 100 young persons to work as boot agents in different locations. And if we get to deploy 200, so our model is designed in such a way that, of course, it creates a job for young persons. And then speak of the challenges in the sector in creating these opportunities for young persons. Just like in the previous question, last year at COP, during the conversations around just transition, is something that you just have to you don't impose it on the people, of course. You don't impose all of these renewable energy conversations on them. You have to get them, you have to allow them get a buy-in into this conversation. Now, when we go to some of these rural communities that we deploy our boot, you find that many of them do not know they don't understand what you're talking about. They don't understand how the solar system works. They don't understand the concept of renewable energy and all of that. And I think that is where training, skill development, and all of that comes into play. So they don't understand this thing. In fact, we've had a lot of myths that are quite funny. In one community, they said that they heard that the energy produced by the sun has impact on their gas gas. It spoils the gas gas. And we were like, where did you pick that up from? They said it will spoil their gas. So we had to do a lot of sensitization to tell them that it's the same energy that you generate from the sun, it's the same energy you generate from hydropower, biogas, and all of that. So we found out that this is a problem, is a challenge where there is a skills gap, there is a knowledge gap. So it's actually, that is one of the problems so we have to train these young persons to understand this is how this thing works. and you also have to talk to this community members that this is the same electricity you get from this is the same that the grid supplies and all of that. So I think that is it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we've had a bit of a first round now of speakers on multiple fronts, both the job potential, maybe also to some extent how we get there. So I'm wondering, are there any burning questions from the audience at this stage already? Then feel free to ask now. I see no hands. Yes, the lady there.
Thank you. My name is Nina. I work with Student Energy to empower young people in the energy transition. So my question is, aside from training people on the technical skills that they need, obviously, I mean, we need people on ground who understand how these systems work. Has any initiative ever been, considered to train them on other skills? That we are all in the energy sector here, but hardly will you find people training people on how to do my job or how to do any of your jobs. So I'm wondering things like administrative skills or how to just work in the energy sector aside from these technical skills. Are there any initiatives to support that? Thank you.
Any takers?
I felt it was for me. So I think it is really relevant what you said, and from my side, in the trainings that we do, it is something that we have been trying to develop more and more, which is the business component of the training. So not only giving importance and priority to the technical skills, but also to the more vocational and business part, and this is also connected to the entrepreneurship support that we were referring to before. So we fully understand as a foundation, as a program, the importance of also providing that kind of skills, because it's not said that everyone who is going to work or wants to work or is working in the energy sector wants to stay on the field, but there is also a part of them who want to cover the more managerial side. And then, of course, within the foundation, we also have other programs that are more focused on the high-level management skills. And why not? I mean, it is not out of the pipeline to think about as a such program for young people, so not only for those already at the super senior level. And it could be something very interesting to develop. And by the way, since you also come from a student association, we have a youth task force within the foundation. So I think there are many interesting things to, yeah. Okay, and I don't know who wants to go next.
Thank you. So as a political foundation, our core mission is political and civic education. So that also means that we sit a lot together with youth to help them express their needs. Yeah. So how to talk to a politician to tell him or her what you want, build up that courage and understand how to address that level of policy making. But beyond that, we don't offer in our program like business courses, but we offer scholarships. So scholarships for young West Africans, in my program especially, but also scholarships to study abroad. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to study politics, but it can be business administration, project management, and my program funds master studies for 2 years, and our scholarship program with Germany is for master and doctoral programs for 2 years or longer.
Thank you very much. We in Ghana, we understand very well the needs for the industry, and we have developed a number of capacity development programs, looking at the entire value chain to be able to build the human capital that is needed for the industry. We've established institutions that have specific mandates to train people. For example, we have the University of Energy and Natural Resources, established solely to train expertise in renewable and energy resources. So you can take engineering program from BSc level all the way to PhD level in that university. Most of our public universities have also established faculties that build capacity in the renewable energy industry. Then, mindful of the fact that you also need a middle level skill set to support the industry, we have placed so much importance on vocational and technical education at the college level. And we are building capacity in that regards, as well as working with partner institutions, i.e. the GIZ and the likes, to be able to develop curricula that meet the expectations of the industry. So I believe with all these programs, Ghana is really building sufficient capacity to be able to, support the development of the industry. We've also established a number of regional centers of excellence where people from the West African region come to Ghana to have specific trainings in specific areas. We partner with Res for Africa. They were in my office. She was in my office, a few weeks ago, and we were exploring areas that we could collaborate on to bring hands-on training to the industry, train people who can become experts to train others. So these are some of the things that we are doing to be able to have the right capacity for the industry.
Yeah, great. You really hit a nerve because everyone wanted to answer the question. There was a question also there behind the lady.
Thank you so much. My name is Beatrice Njuguna from Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation in Kenya. My question is to you. Sorry, I didn't get your name. I think I missed it out. I wanted to find out, when you're doing the civic education, how do you work with the county governments in Kenya? We have 47 county governments, and because we went into devolution, and we want to know whether you just work with the national government, or do you go down even to the 47 counties? Do you get involved in that? The next question I would want to ask Chiemi, I think that's the name. In REREC, that is what we call it, we also do a lot of projects. Our main drive is in the rural areas, yeah? And we also have that challenge of, training in down at the rural areas. So I'd really want to know, do you certify them so that in case there's any other need, you're able to pinpoint them? Do you populate them? What more do you do to ensure that that skill is maintained and utilized by any other energy activity that might be taking place in that I really want to understand how you really do it. Just expound for me further. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. For all the details, I will refer you to my colleague who is heading our Kenya office, but I can tell you that when we talk about civic and political education, we work also on a regional level, and we work
such a way, yes, they get certified. And then we offer them post-training support, of course, to be able to, still maintain the training that been passed on to them. We'll bring in business development support to them. So the post-training support come in 3 pathways, where we have some which we link to organizations for direct employment. We have some that are placed on internship, or some who wants to be freelancers. They could be energy developers and all of that. And then we have a group who wants to start up businesses like myself. So we group them into teams of 3s and 4s, and then we make them come up with business ideas. So we take them through 6 months or less incubation process, where we teach them business development processes, from the ideation to the designs, to the business plan development, to how to assess finance and all of that. So this is the pathway we take, and then of course we take them all through soft skills trainings, time management and all of that, because of course they need the soft skills to complement the technical skills that they've acquired. So that's the approach we use.
Wow, 2 questions at the back. The gentleman to the right, perhaps first, and then the one to the left. Well, right.
Yeah,
okay.
thank you. I'm Dennis Sariho from the East African Center of Excellence for Renewable Energy and Efficiency, YAKRI. My question focuses on skilling for financial institutions, because these financial institutions tend to put a high risk on renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. So my question to the International Copper Association, Rest for Africa, and the rest of you, are you having programs for training financial institutions, even SACCOs and other microfinance institutions, so that they can be able to put low risks for renewable energy and energy efficiency projects? Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Granville. I'm from Open Energy Labs. A quick question around curriculum development. As you may understand, with all the training that's going on, it all falls under technical development, yeah? If you enter a country and you want to do a particular training, it has to be guided by, in most cases, I think Mr. Seth will agree, it has to be guided by TVET Acts. And these TVET Acts as well require certification, require validation, and of course I mentioned require curriculum change and policy change. My question is, what is the panel doing to ensure that validation and certification is done at a quick and fast pace? And as well, you may understand validation, certification, curriculum change are quite expensive. What is the panel doing to support companies that want to do energy training? And what is the panel also doing to support governments that want to run technical training? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Happy I'm not a panelist, but I'll let my panelists answer. So Steve, first on the, I think on the financing institutions one.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to answer the question, and I know my answer is not going to be 100% related, but I'm going to give it my best chance. I mentioned very briefly this morning, and Sustainable Energy for All was mentioned already, and SEforALL are serving as a secretariat for an initiative called Mission Efficiency, and that brings together the organizations, the partnerships, the governments that I would say are the leaders in trying to elevate action on energy efficiency for climate. And embedded within that is something called the Energy Efficiency Financing Marketplace, which aims, its goal is to connect the finance to the projects in clean energy that are needed. So that would be the suggestion I would have to try to, to bring the finance community to the discussion. The marketplace is intended, it recognizes that it's missing this knowledge base themselves, right? So we're bringing knowledge to them. And it's a project origination facility. So if there are any ideas for projects, including around this space that we're talking about today, you could see me afterwards and we could talk about how to try to do some matchmaking with the appropriate finance. I hope that helps a little. I know it's not a perfect answer to what you want, though.
Thank you. Any other takers on the first question? Or the second one, actually? So first question, finance institutions, how do we train them? Second question, certification frameworks, what is the panel doing to fast track that? Fast track the
All right,
implementation.
thank you very much. I think the issue about financial institutions having capacity in renewable energy and what have you is a big issue for those of us from this region. If you look at the multilateral development financial institutions, the bilateral ones, they do not really have this issue. They have created portfolios that train their staff to understand the nuances of the industry. But when you come to the local level, the national level, financial institutions, to a very large extent, do not have the requisite skills to really appreciate what is happening in this so-called green energy space. So in Ghana, what we are doing is to identify institutions that we can work with, and we develop training programs for them to bring them on board, train them through the various programs that we are running. For example, we have a program we're calling the SunRef program. That program has a capacity building component for financial institutions. So we bring them together, bring the experts to train them to understand how deals are structured within the renewable energy space. And this is making an impact to the extent that we are seeing growing interest within the financial space for renewable energy. Financial institutions are developing interest to participate in the industry because they are gaining better understanding and knowledge of the industry. The issue about curricular development is very important. It's a very difficult one. But the good thing is that I believe countries have their own frameworks for supporting the development of curricula for various industries. In Ghana, we have the accreditation board that is responsible for granting accreditation to such things. So if there is a training need for a particular discipline, you need to get the experts together to develop the curricula. And when that is done, it is subjected to the accreditation board and it goes through the process. Once it is approved, it becomes an accepted curricula for training within a particular category of, skill set. If it's at the TVET level, COTVET level, university level, short-term capacity development levels, that is the process we go through, and I think it's something that most countries go through. We have Energy Commission, for example, that is responsible for certifying certain professionals in the industry. So they have acquired the skill to be able to test people and certify them to perform certain activities within the renewable energy industry in Ghana. These are some of the things that we are doing that I think we can have further conversation on this after the program. Thank you.
I can give you one example from our work. For example, we developed a book on civic education, and in there you would find chapters on climate change, energy, for example. So our work always is not coming with input from Germany, but we always work with local partners. So we provide the funds, we provide the framework, but the knowledge comes from within the country, from experts on the ground. And then in that specific example, we would send then the draft to the Ministry for Education and get their approval. And only after that, we would take then this book for civic education and use it in the courses and activities we do.
Okay, so for the first question from Dennis, hi Dennis, by the way. In terms of what we do, so beyond the program, because of course the Microgrid Academy is not targeting financial institutions or that level of professionals, but within the foundation itself, we are moving more and more to include training in all our programs, and also directed and targeted to more high level, senior level, and also government institutions. So probably there is going to be at a certain point a window to move also towards the financial part, but it is something work in progress for us right now. And about the curriculum, I think that is a challenge. So if I have been asked the question about the challenges, that is a challenge. And as Stephanie had just said, also for us, for Africa, it is key to work with partners on the ground, because it is through those partners that we are able to adjust our curriculum and also to get the right certifications. So in Kenya, we were able to do so. We were able to, through our partners in local again, we were able to certify our curriculum to the local national institution. And in terms of now, we are trying to extend that certification to another partner. And in that case, for instance, our role is to facilitate. So obviously we are not those in local, we are not those who have the knowledge of the process, who can really do much more than be a bridge between the different entities involved. But when there is a window, again, to facilitate, we try to do so, and also to support financially if that is within our scope and within our capacity. Thank you.
Okay, so just quickly on the curriculum design and a lot of that. So for Nigeria, the typical Nigeria scenario, so we had this, the program and proposals with an organization, Clinton Innovation Center, where we proposed for curriculum redesign, because actually for engineering in the Nigerian high institution, so because there is this typical case of most of the engineering activities, the engineering learners are mostly theoretical. So you have a mechanical engineering student, an electrical and electronics engineering student who cannot identify what a solar panel is. So, but he or she have actually learned about renewable energy in the classroom. And you have a mechanical engineer student who can't operate a CNC machine or a laser cutter, a 3D printer, but they've probably heard about that in the classroom. So we propose this to have more hands-on training instead of just the classroom theory method of teaching. Get it to be industry fit, to bring them up on some of this industry required skill. But it's a challenge, just like Laura said. So there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of meetings and all of that. So what we did was to we have organizations like COREN, we have organizations like REN, so you could get these actual certifications from them, get these collaborations and partnership with them. So outside the curriculum design, outside the institution, which seems to be cast on stone, we organize these trainings. We organize training for the lecturers, we organize lecture trainings for the students. So with this, it is more as though we've been creating a kind of revolution. So they're seeing the impact, they're seeing that this is industry relevant skills. So for most of them who complain of unemployment, it's not as though that some of the jobs does not exist. One of the reasons is because they don't have the right skill for the job, because you graduate as a mechanical engineering student and you want to get a job in a manufacturing firm, but you don't know how to operate a CNC machine, and then the cost of human resource development is quite high and all of that, so the company can't employ you. So they're seeing the benefit, so they are joining in the revolution. So I believe that with that we could get to something. We could get the policymakers to say, okay, fine, let's review these curriculums and all of that.
Yeah, thank you for that contribution. So what you're saying is also a stronger coordination on what's included with private sector and entrepreneurs, right? So that the jobs match, or the education matches the jobs.
Yes, that's very correct. So that's in fact one of the things that makes the technical trainings very important, because it hands-on. It teaches them what is relevant on the field. It teaches them industry required skills, so they don't just sit in the classroom and learn some theoretical thing that they don't know how to apply. So it teaches them how to connect a solar panel, how the inverter works, how the charge controller works, and all of that. So it's prepared prepares them for the future of work. It prepares them for the right job. It prepares them to take on most of those jobs here. And we've had cases where we've trained graduates in electrical and electronics engineering. Like a graduate, cannot identify a charge controller. And I was like, and you spent 4 years in school studying electronics and all of that. And that is the case for most young graduates in Nigeria. So that is one of the reasons why most of these technical trainings are very important. So you take the real life application and you show them this is how it works. So that thing you did in class, they taught you how a CNC machine works in class. So this is the CNC machine. This is where you turn it on. This is how you create a CAD design, and this is how it works. So it makes them ready to take on jobs. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I saw a hand on the second row here. So feel free to jump in again.
Hello again, Nina from Student Energy. So it was interesting to hear, some discussions on the challenges that you have faced with just that question that was asked. So I'm just wondering, are there some challenges that you have faced with implementation of your initiatives? And, on the people side, from the stakeholders and also from, governments. And also to the Deputy Director from the Ministry of Energy, I'm just wondering if there are some challenges to implementation of your policies. I know that I'm quite versed in the Nigerian energy industry, and I know that there are certain policies that still have not been implemented, even though they exist. They have a good framework for encouraging renewable energy in the market, but implementation is just really difficult. So I'm wondering if you faced some of those and how you're planning to overcome them. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's table the first question for a moment, and we go to the specific question to Seth. First.
All right, so who takes the first one? The specific one is for me. All right, so thank you very much. I would want to respond to the specific questions, whether we have some challenges in the implementation of policies in the energy sector. Yes, the challenges are there, but for us, we see the challenges as opportunity to really get things going, I'll give you a few examples. For example, we wanted to use distributed, off-grid renewables to address our last mile electrification interventions. Mind you, Ghana has about 89% access rate. And we have just about 11% of the population to connect. And these are people who are living mostly on islands and lakeside communities that have no access to road, etc. Therefore, extending the national grid is a major issue. We came up with a policy to use mini grids to electrify them. And one of the pillars of that policy is the tariff issue. How do we ensure that customers on island mini grids pay the same tariff, and also at the same time we've been able to address the viability gap? We came up with a framework that has been on the drawing board for close to 5-6 years that has not been implemented. And you need to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And we are still pushing, hoping that that policy would be accepted and implemented at some point, where the tariff for mini-grid customers will be mainstream into the national tariff system, such that the viability gap can be passed through for all of us to cover. So these are some of the challenges. Also, we have the policy to achieve 10% installed capacity of renewable energy by 2020. And as of 2020, we had done just about 60 megawatts. So we're nowhere close to that target. Again, it's a policy that faced a lot of challenges, and we have to move it to 2030. Why is it so? Because a number of factors were not playing to the interest of the policy. So these are some of the key challenges that one will face, but we see all of them as opportunities, because now we have gotten things right and a lot of projects are underway. Construction of big solar parks are ongoing in Ghana. today, and we are very optimistic that by 2030, we'll be able to achieve our 10% target. So these are some of the few challenges that I would want to talk about. But you never give up. You just have to keep on pushing. As long as you believe in yourself that it's a strong policy that can make a difference, pursue it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Well, it's already quite a significant amount of questions, so maybe we can also, in the interest of time and keeping the schedule, we will move towards rounding up. I'd like to ask one final question to each of the panelists here, and that's simply, so you're at the EAIF now, what is your main ask, or what are you looking to achieve, where are you looking to partner with here? In case there's someone in the audience that matches that description, that's perhaps a useful thing to know. So we can start with Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned before, all our activities are based on the needs on the ground. So we always look for partners that come up with ideas, find issues that are relevant for a political foundation, may that be in civic education, may that be in political frameworks, may that be in, may that be in education and economics. So, and we work with a broad spectrum of people. So, as I said, that is political decision makers, but it's CSOs, it's students, it's academia, it's religious experts, so it's really broad. So whenever there is someone here who says, oh, it's interesting what the foundation does, and I think I would like to give my input there, I'm very happy to, if you would get in touch with me. And then for young people, we will open our scholarship program for the next academic year next week. So you would find the call for application, all information on our website. So please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. No, I'm just set with it with the mic. So for us, yeah, is also we have many projects and many new developments within the foundation. So we are always open to new ideas from like-minded organizations, especially for, well, since I'm here, for those working in the field of capacity building, because there are so many lessons to always keep learning, and receiving input from others is always important to better tailor the content and also the activities that we do to the needs of the communities and the people we serve. And well, saying that, we are looking to expand our geographies. We want to implement trainings in new countries. So we were focusing before mainly on East Africa, but we are open now to go even beyond. And we want to continue and increase the support to youth and the support to young entrepreneurs, which is at the core of the new developments that we are working on at the foundation. And yeah, I take the chance also in the meantime to announce that the 4th edition of our Young Talent of the Year Award opened today. So young entrepreneurs in the room, outside the rooms, you have time until the 4th of June to submit your proposals. And this is a very important step because, I mean, a new edition of the award means new inspiring ideas to come up and new work to be done. So we are very excited. And yeah, for anything, we, myself and my colleague, we are here and look forward to hearing from the audience. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, as a private company, so of course, there are so many ways we could work together. So we have provided a lot of communities in Nigeria, rural communities, peri-urban communities that are disconnected from the national grid. The locations are quite distant from the grid. So of course, we are open to sponsorships. You could sponsor to take one solar booth to this community. We're open to investment. we could get investment to build as many solar booths as possible and take to these identified communities. And also as well, we get a lot of young persons come to us for training, but the cost of individual training is quite expensive. And at the core of what we do at our organization, we always look for a way to subsidize and make these things available for those at the bottom of the pyramid, as I would love to put it. So of course we also open for sponsorship for training, so we could group these young persons quite a number and conduct trainings for them, because of course, like I mentioned, the cost of individual trainings are quite high. So I think these are the ways we could work together, and these are the things we are open to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we at the Ministry of Energy, we are open up to partnership that brings mutual benefit to all, and I believe strongly that we can start from those of us here on the panel, and also to our audience, that there is so much scope for us to collaborate, to share lessons that can help our respective entities develop. We are currently targeting the second cycle institutions in Ghana to unearth talents. And we're doing this through a school challenge program that I believe Rest for Africa can work closely with us to leverage and unlock the opportunities within that space to ensure that value is developed right from scratch. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those contributions. So quite broad, what you're looking for in terms of partnerships, investors, call for young people to apply, call for general partnerships. So with that, we are unfortunately already at the session's end, but I encourage you to also connect with the people here, or in general with other conference participants via the matchmaking. And with that, we go to the coffee break. I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking the panelists.